in Taiwan will be voting for local mayors, city councilors, and other local leaders this Saturday. And here to talk with me about the impact of the local elections on Taiwan is political commentator at the Taiwan News, Courtney Donovan Smith. It's great to have you here, Donovan. And I am curious, and you wrote about this recently, what you think the impact of China is on the local elections this time.
International issues, China usually doesn't play much of a role in local elections. And if you'd asked me just a few months ago if this was going to be a factor in this election, I would have been surprised. But what happened is starting around the late summer, you started seeing those Kangzhong Baotai statements, which is basically resist China, protect Taiwan. There are also no surrender pledges. The DPP has been using this, and it's pretty obvious the reason why. It's because it's worked a charm for them in the last two national elections in 2016 and 2020. But they didn't bring in anything concrete. If they brought in something concrete to go with it, that would be relevant to local elections, I think it would have been a lot more effective. If you take a look at the war in Ukraine, local leaders have played a very significant role in the war there. If DPP candidates had come out and said things like, okay, we're going to come out with plans to organize fire, police, and emergency workers to prepare for this sort of thing. And of course, air raid shelters are a big one. And right now, usually they're just, storage spaces. But it did not look like their sloganeering on this budged the polls at all. And it sets them up for a bit of an embarrassing situation for the president and the administration. The KMT has pretty much almost all of the advantages coming into this election. And so they're likely going to do very, very well. And so internationally, you're going to get headlines saying things by ignorant, foreign reporters who are going to be saying things like, pro-China party wins Taiwan election. Obviously, the administration is going to start worrying then that those headlines start impacting foreign public opinion and opinion leaders, and most importantly, politicians and government officials.
Let's say the KMT, the opposition party, does very well, or even the TPP, the third party, does very well in the elections. How big of an impact will it have on presidential elections, which are just over a year away?
I would say not a lot.
Really?
Yes. And the reason is the issues that voters are concerned about in local elections are different from those that they're concerned about in the national elections. The lower the level of the election, the more the KMT has an advantage.
Why is that?
Well, they historically have had a stronger ground game. When it comes to the national elections, your voter goes from worrying about, denture subsidies to worrying about national security issues and the relationship with China, Taiwanese identity, Taiwanese sovereignty. It's at this level, since the Sunflower Movement, where the DPP has, obviously, they won 2 landslide elections in the meantime. They have the advantage because the public trusts them significantly more when it comes to those particular issues.
Let's talk about the TPP, which is a new factor this time. It is, Taipei Mayor Ko Wen-je's party. What kind of impact do you think it will have on this election and also the next, presidential election?
I'm actually more interested in what impact this election is going to have on the TPP. They are running, let's see, I think it's 156 city council candidates around the country. What their goal is to have enough members elected to have a caucus in all the cities and counties around the country, which is an ambitious goal, but they might succeed. It's possible. The candidate that everyone's eyes are on, An Gao in Hsinchu City, she's been doing quite well. She's a legislator. She's got a tech background and has a lot of support, especially amongst younger voters. So I give her the edge, although it's still a very competitive race. I believe that the DPP candidate has a better chance at winning over undecided voters because An Gao has recently been embroiled in a series of scandals. And that could weigh on her campaign.
What do you
Now,
think about Taipei? Are you going to talk about Taipei?
yes, that's it. That's exactly where I was going. So there's Vivian Huang in Taipei. She's not actually a member of the TPP, but she attends party meetings. She's got the party's backing. Now, the three-way race there is very, very competitive. My suspicion is that it will go to the KMT. But that being said, I really do think Vivian Huan has a very good shot, and I think she has the best shot at getting what remaining undecided voters there are.
Why is that?
Because Chen Shih-chung, the DPP candidate, he was on the TV news every single day for 900 some odd days. If people
Oh,
haven't made up their mind on him by this point, they never will. Particularly independents and undecideds, they tend to be less partisan. And so my take is that Vivian Huang has probably more of an appeal to them. She's also the most qualified of the candidates as a former vice mayor of the city.
Taipei is known to be a blue-leaning, electorate. So do you think that gives the KMT candidate an edge?
Yes, I think that he's got the best shot to pull this out. Now, Ang Gao has got a series of lawsuits against her for copyright infringement, but possibly most worryingly, if you're a TPP supporter, is the Taipei prosecutor's office has launched a criminal investigation against her for skimming off wages from her legislative assistants, forcing them to donate to the TPP. It's also alleged that the entire TPP caucus was doing the exact same thing. At this point, they're just allegations. If if they turn out to be true and she is convicted and the entire legislative caucus of the TPP is also, that basically leaves the party with Wen-je. And then they run a situation of becoming a one-man band. This Hsinchu city election is potentially existential for the party.
If his party does terribly, do you think that will affect whether he will run for president?
Well, okay, he himself has said he's probably going to run, but he has also said in the past that he's going to look at opinion polls and see if he has any chance. I would assume that it would affect his calculations. Would it deter him or not? He's got a, how should I put this, strong self image. Um, and he may run anyway.
So how big of an impact do you think the local elections, let's summarize, will have on the presidential elections?
Like I say, I don't really think that much.
Okay.
We had that big blue wave in 2018 where the
Hmm.
KMT won in a landslide. And then a year and a half later, just over a year and a half later, the DPP won in a landslide.
Hmm.
Because the issues that they were discussing and the issues in the campaigns were just so different.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I've been speaking with political commentator at the Taiwan News, Courtney Donovan Smith, and he also hosts the podcast on Taiwan politics called Taiwan Report.